Hey, I'm Justin Sinceri, a licensed marriage and family therapist that's kind of obsessed with something called the Polyvagal theory. If you have no idea what that is, watching this is not going to be super helpful for you. Go to justinlmft.com. I have a ton of polyvagal resources, including a polyvagal intro page. I have my podcast, Stuck Not Broken, episodes 101 through 109. I also have a polyvagal theory book and how it connects to trauma. So I have a whole bunch of stuff for you on justinlmft.com. So I've been revamping my Polyvagal 101 course. I like to redesign things, revamp things, and I've used my new black and white branding with a certain font and whatnot, and my grid system, which I'm really excited about in this. So I thought I would practice this out. It's not just a new design; it's actually a new activity that I'm going to be implementing to my Polyvagal 101 course. So I want to just kind of test this out, and I thought I might as well record it and see what you thought about it and see how you do. This is a good chance to have a quick brush up on the difference between freeze and shutdown in the polyvagal theory. The basic idea with freeze and shutdown is freeze is a tense immobilization, shutdown is a limp immobilization. Both of these are defensive autonomic reactions to danger, but with freeze it's like stiff. It's like very paralyzed, tense muscles kind of immobilization. Shutdown is that death feigning, playing dead, collapsed, dissociative kind of immobilization. So with this, what I want you to decipher is, as I show each image, there's like 6 images. Which of these are freeze and which of these are shutdown? We'll go through them one by one, and I'll share my rationale. Actually, I think a couple of these are up for debate. So if you're a psychology teacher or you're teaching this stuff in your classroom, this actually might be a good chance for a discussion here. So here's the first one. Now, this one I actually think this is kind of up for debate. When I first put this on there, well, before I say that, what do you think this is? Do you see a limp collapse or a tense freeze? When I first put this together, I was thinking limp collapse, but I can kind of see it the other way as well. Maybe there's a lot we don't see here with her. So there could be a ton of tension happening here, but I would say it's more of a shutdown. I think when we're in a freeze, that could look like a panic attack. Now you could deal with the panic attack by laying in bed and close turning down the lights and whatnot. I almost said closing the lights. That's what my dad used to say growing up. Close the lights. So you might be able to do something like that where you deal with a panic attack, you deal with a freeze by going to bed, I suppose. But with shutdown, you kind of also do potentially spend a lot more time in bed since it's such a limp, energyless sort of state. So I would assume that she's like been in bed and she has like no motivation. She feels empty inside and there's just like no energy in her system. So I would say it feels more like a shutdown to me, but I could see it being a freeze as well. But I would lean towards shutdown. This one, though, what do you think? Let me give you a chance to ponder this for yourself. Do you see freeze or do you see shutdown here? This one feels more tense to me. This one is more animated. There is energy in her system. She's grasping her face. She seems desperate. This feels more like withholding a rage or maybe even like trying to fight off a panic attack. I can see this to me is more of a freeze and less of a shutdown. Now, of course, shutdown is part of freeze, and you'll know that knowing polyvagal theory mixed states. But this image in particular, this feels more like freeze to me. I would read this more as a freeze, like in a therapy session. All right, there's 2 out of 6. Here's number 3. And again, just for you, what is your sense? What kind of feels right to you? Does this feel more like a tense freeze or a collapsed shutdown? Now, this person's obviously not laying down in bed. He's not fully collapsed. But I think we could say that there's less energy in the system than if this was like a rage or a panic attack, right? So this, I would say, is more of a shutdown. He is energy-less. He might even be alone and isolating himself. That could be very much a shutdown kind of thing. And it could be freeze as well, but again, shutdown is part of freeze. But just in his behaviors right now, the way he presents, this feels to me more like a shutdown. Here's number 4. So how do you feel about our friend here? What do you think? Is this more of a freeze or a shutdown? When I see this, I see more of a freeze. I see someone who has energy in their system, they're upright, they're mobile, but something's going on. And we're assuming this is not like a heart attack, although a panic attack could very much feel like that. So we're assuming that he is having a panic attack basically in this scenario. We're assuming that he is having trouble breathing. His breathing into his chest probably became a lot more shallow. His heart rate has probably gone way up. He may be even going through some sort of like dissociation in this instance right now. So him touching the wall might be his attempt to stay grounded, to feel something, to have some sort of sensory input, fighting off a dissociation, trying to breathe through this. So this is, to me, seems very clearly a freeze. There's energy in his system. He is not collapsed. Like he is active, and it seems like his body's active as well. Number 5, this one, what do you think? Is that a limp collapse or a tense freeze? I could go either way with this. I think that when I first put this together, I saw this as freeze. And the eyes being a bit wider, the blank face with no affect on it, which also could be very much a shutdown thing. But for her, it feels like there's some energy in there, and she's just kind of like riding it through or bearing with it. I don't see someone who has lost their energy. I don't see someone who is like just slumped in numbness. I see someone who's probably having a lot of feelings right now, a lot of internal sensation. It seems like her heart, I would guess her heart rate is a bit higher and not lower, not like in a shutdown where things are slowing down. And for me, it's the eyes specifically that kind of suggests the flavor of freeze to me. And we'll do one more here and again, see what you think about her. What do you feel here? Is that a limp collapse or a tense freeze? Does it look like she's having a panic attack? Or is she just sort of folded and collapsing? I would say this is more of a shutdown. I see someone who has some energy in their system. She can obviously keep her legs upright to support the weight of her upper body. But this is someone who's trying to hide. This is someone who is closing themselves off from the world. They're cutting out the external world. They're trying to hide, and I think the hide is definitely kind of like a shutdown sort of thing, where you just want to block everything out. You want to be alone in dark and have the least amount of stimulation possible. Now, even though that room has light in it, this is someone who's cut off the rest of the world. This is something we see in schools a lot with kids who have more of a shutdown, collapsed, lack of motivation flavor. When they come to school, they might just check out and they put their head on their desk or they put their hoodie over their head. And that reminds me of what we're seeing right here. So I would say this is more of a shutdown without the freeze element. This to me feels more like a collapse, although you might be able to make the argument the other way as well. This is just like a basic kind of guide. These things can blend and look different ways based on each person and how they've learned to adapt to their stuck autonomic state. So what we look at as like a more obvious freeze may not look like that in somebody else. Maybe they've learned to adapt and actually smile through their panicky freeze kind of state. Likewise, with someone who's in shutdown, maybe they deal with that by making jokes constantly. But really, in their system, they have a ton of emptiness. They have a void. They have numbness that they're going through. So I think that things can look differently. We're just kind of looking at, can we identify the basic extreme version of these things? And there you go. So how'd you do? Did your thoughts align with mine on these? I do think some of these are open for debate. Some felt more clear than others. I would love to know what you thought about this in the comments. This is a YouTube only little video here because obviously you need the visuals of it. Let me know if you like this and if I should post more YouTube only stuff. I have the podcast Stuck Not Broken and everything goes there. But with YouTube, there's an opportunity here to do something different. So if you've been following my content and you like this, let me know. And if you want more of this, let me know. I have a couple of ones that I actually want to put out to help differentiate these polyvagal states. Again, though, if you want to find even more information on the polyvagal theory, go to justinlmft.com. Bye.